Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online role video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're taking a look at the Soul Reaver in its tank role. This way you guys can decide if you want to play it as a tank or not, and I can show you how you can set it up for that. And with all of my role videos, please understand these are just suggestions. You do not have to play by these. That is up to you to decide. So, let's get into it. Taking a look at the race, or the name. We are the Soul Reaver character. This is a Nord Necromancer. As you can see, we have 64 points into health. This is going to give us 18k magicka, 33k health, 23k stamina, with a 534 magic recovery, 321 health recovery, and a 668 stamina recovery, with weapon damage coming in at 23, 29, and a 41% weapon critical. We do have a 23k spell resist with a 23k physical resistance. Pretty equalized. Moving on down, we do have the Lady Mundustone. This is going to increase our spell and physical resist by 3577. We do have Tri-Stat Food, and that food is the Longfin Pasty and Melon Sauce, as you can see right here. This is going to give us max health, magicka, and stamina for the duration. And then we are using the Tri-Pot for this, and this gives you health restore, magicka restore, and stamina restore, and also gives you major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance, which increases health recovery, magic recovery, and stamina recovery by 20% for the duration. Alright, moving on to the gear. We are using Veladrits. I know not very many people will be like, that's not very tankish, but that's okay. This build is primarily a stamina build. As you can see, the 1 piece adds weapon damage. 2 piece, when you deal damage, you have a 20% chance to spawn 3 disease spores in front of you after 1 second that deal 13,003 damage to the first enemy they hit. This effect can occur once every 9 seconds. Moving on to the next set, we are using the Gladiator, Kvetch's Gladiator set. This is going to give you lots of weapon critical, so 2 pieces weapon critical, 3 pieces weapon critical, 4 pieces weapon damage, and then when your target is under 25% health, add 1800 weapon damage to your light and heavy attacks. With Sword and Shield, that really does improve your damage output. Moving on to the next set, we are running Briarhearts. This is going to give you a 2-piece bonus of weapon critical, 3-piece bonus of max stamina, 4-piece of weapon critical. So lots of weapon critical in this build. As you can see, that's how we have that 41.7%. And this also on the 5-piece, when you deal critical damage, you have a 10% chance to increase your weapon damage by 449 for 10 seconds. While this effect is active, your critical strikes heal you for 669 health. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. And then the traits on our armor, we have 1 sturdy on the helm and a sturdy on the leggings. This is going to give us greater block cost reduction. We have a reinforced chest on a heavy chest plate. This is going to give us higher resistances. And then we have a light belt with medium on the rest of the pieces and all divines with max stamina on the smaller pieces. On the bigger pieces, we are running Tri-Stat Glyphs. This is going to give us that ability to hybridize our character into all 3 roles when we need to play them. Moving on to the jewelry. The first piece of jewelry we have is a Briarheart Tri-Rune Ring with a weapon damage enchant. The other one is a Tri-Rune Ring with a weapon damage enchant. And then the final one is a infused necklace with a reduced bash cost and block cost. This is going to save us on our resources for blocking and bashing. Moving on to the shield. We are using a sturdy shield with block cost reduction, of course, and a Tri-Stat in it. And we are using a sword decisive with an absorbed stamina enchant. And then we are using a 2-handed maul on the back bar infused with a crusher enchant. Alright, now that you guys have seen that, let's go ahead and jump over to the skills. Remember, unlock the skills that are going to reflect your ability to play this class as any role. So mainly what you want to do is you want to unlock the class skills that affect you for those roles, and make sure you unlock all the class passives. When it comes to your weapons, one-handed sword and shield, you're going to want to unlock all the skills and the passives. Pick the ones that reflect your playstyle best. Same thing goes with the 2-handed. Unlock all the skills and the passives that reflect your playstyle best. Now, moving on to the armor, we are a medium armor build, but we are going to take advantage of the light armor passives here. With Grace, reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 4% for each piece of light armor worn. This is a 4% reduced snare effectiveness. It's very small, but it's subtle enough that you notice it. Reduces the cost of sprint per piece of light armor worn, so you get a reduced sprint cost by 3%. And we are wearing, like I said, one medium, or 1 heavy, 1 light, and 5 medium. Evocation, increase your magic recovery by 4% for each piece of light armor equipped. Not really big, but it does help out, and reduce the cost of your magic abilities by 2% for each piece of light armor equipped. Moving on to spell warding, we do get increased spell resistance by 363 for each piece of light armor equipped. Moving on to medium armor, we have dexterity, increase your weapon critical by 328 for each piece of medium armor. We get a 1643 increase to our weapon critical. We have Windwalker, which increases our stamina recovery by 4% for each piece of medium armor. We get a 20% increase, and we also get a reduced cost of stamina abilities by 2%. We get a 10% reduced cost, and then we also get improved sneak. This is more for when you're playing Dark Brotherhood or Thieves Guild, or you're doing Cyrodiil scouting, or you're doing like scouting, or you're doing ganking on people. But as you can see, it reduces the cost of your sneak by 7% for each piece of medium armor equipped. That's a 35% reduced cost. It also reduces the size of your detection area while sneaking by 5% per each piece of medium armor. That's a 25% reduced detection radius. And then we have Agility, which when 5 or more pieces of medium armor equipped, increases weapon damage by 15%. And then Athletics, increases your movement speed bonus of sprint by 3% for each piece of medium armor equipped. That's a 15% increase in movement speed while sprinting, and then reduce your dodge roll cost by 4% for each piece of medium armor equipped. That's a 20% reduced cost. Moving on to heavy armor, we do have 3 passives here that are unlocked. We have Resolve. This increases your physical and spell resistance by 362, for each piece of heavy armor equipped. We have Constitution, which increases your health recovery by 4% for each piece of heavy armor equipped, and restores 108 magic and stamina when you take damage for each piece of heavy armor equipped. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds. We do get 108 magic and stamina back whenever we take damage every 4 seconds. Juggernaut increases your max health by 2% for each piece of heavy armor. That really helps you, allows you that more versatile ability to play a tank when you need to be, or when you want to be. Soul Magic, unlock the skills and abilities again here that you prefer, and then also unlock Soul Shatter. When your health drops below 20%, your soul explodes, dealing 3,879 magic damage to enemies within 8 meters of you. This effect can occur once every 2 minutes. And then Soul Summons allows you to revive once every hour without spending a soul gem. And then Soul Lock, killing an enemy with a weapon ability has a 10% chance to automatically filling an empty soul gem. Guild skills, Fighters Guild. Make sure you unlock all the passives, because you never know if you're going to need some of these. Even if you are playing a tank type character, you can take advantage of these when you're not tanking. Mages Guild, same thing. Take advantage of the skills for whatever role you might want to use. You might want to use Balance instead of the class ability for the resistance buff, because Balance is going to give you the ability to exchange your health for Magicka. So that's a nice trade-off, but at the same time it does reduce your healing done and your damage shield strength by 50% for 4 seconds. Really be careful when using this, and make sure you already know how to tank really well before you do. Cedric Order, also unlock the skills and passives that can reflect your playstyle and add to your ability of play. Undaunted, I unlocked all the passives here because you never know what passives you might want to use. And make sure you unlock the Undaunted passives, because they really do help you out in the long run. As you can see here, this one's going to give me health, 1,470 health, 940 stamina, and 739 Magicka when I activate a synergy. If somebody throws me orbs, it's going to give me stamina back, and that stamina is going to be boosted because of this. So, next, Undaunted Metal increases your max health, stamina, and Magicka by 2% for each piece of armor type equipped. So heavy, light, and medium, that's a 6% increase, and because of the way we have our gear set up. Moving on to Alliance War skills. Same thing, unlock the passives and skills that reflect your ability. You want to have for an ability to play. Same thing with the support skills and passives. And then Nord, make sure you unlock all the passives here. Reaver is really nice. It increases your experience gain with two-handed weapons by 15%. It also increases the duration of consumed drinks by 15 minutes. This really helps out when you're playing a DPS character. Next, we have Resist Frost. This increases your max health by 1,000 and your cold resistance by 2310. Gain immunity to chilled status effects. Stalwart, increase your stamina by 1,500. And when you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. And then Rugged, increase your physical and spell resist by 3960. This is going to give you greater tankiness. And then moving on to Alchemy. Medicinal use, when using a potion, resulting effects last 30% longer. And then on Provisioning, Gourmand and Connoisseur, both of these make your food and drinks last 20 minutes longer. Alright, I think I missed this on the Stalwart. When you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur every 10 seconds. That's really good when you're tanking, because it allows you to build ultimate faster than any other race. Alright. Moving on to the skills we have on our bar, starting with the first skill, we have Pierce Armor. This is going to do 5,160 physical damage and taunt the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds. Also afflicts the enemy with Major Fracture and Major Breach, reducing their physical and spell resist by 5,280 for 12 seconds. This is just really good for your group to debuff the enemies to improve everyone's DPS. Next, we have Deep Slash. This one surprises an enemy with a sweeping lunge, dealing 5,647 physical damage to them and 1,363 physical damage to 2 other nearby enemies. You reduce the movement speed of all enemies hit by 60% for 4 seconds. Also afflicts all enemies hit with minor maim, reducing their damage done by 15% for 12 seconds. This is really nice to apply minor maim to multiple targets for when you're fighting trash packs in dungeons or trials. Next up, we have Spiked Bone Shield. I really like Spiked Bone Shield with this because it really reflects that stamina-based play. So surround yourself with a Whirlwind of Bones, gaining a damage shield that absorbs 34% of your max health for 6 seconds and returns 38% of any direct damage absorbed back to the enemy. An ally nearby can activate the Bone Wall synergy, granting an ally and up to 3 other friendly targets near them a damage shield that absorbs 58% of their max health for 6 seconds. Next ability we have is Ruinous Scythe. This is an awesome ability. Slice your enemies with life force, dealing 4,835 physical damage. Every third cast of this ability will set all enemies off balance, and you heal for 5,016 health for the first enemy hit, and an additional 1,672 for each additional enemy, up to 5 times. The healing of this ability scales off your max health, so it's really good to make sure your max health is high. Next ability we have is Absorb Magicka. Bolster your defenses, absorbing up to 19,396 damage from your next spell projectile cast at you, and healing for 16% of the max health. While you have a shield equipped and this ability slotted, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 8%, and your cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. Moving on, we do have Pummeling Goliath as our ultimate. This one, become a destructive Pummeling Goliath, increasing your max health by 30% for 20 seconds and immediately restoring 30,000 health. While transform, your light attacks restore 734 health, and your fully charged heavy attacks restore 1839 health. This ability scales off your max health. Your bash attacks can hit multiple targets in front of you and deal 8,253 physical damage. Moving on to the back bar, our first ability here is Carve. This one focuses your strength into a mighty swing, dealing 4,965 physical damage to enemies in front of you and causing them to bleed for an additional 9,505 physical damage. This is how you're going to apply your Crusher enchant. You can only apply it to one enemy, but any enemy that you first strike will get that Crusher applied to them, which reduces their resistances even more by 2108. Moving on, we have Stalwart Guard. Create a life bond between you and an allied player. While bonded, 30% of the damage they take is instead redistributed to you. You and your bonded ally also gain minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10%. The bond will remain until you recast the spell or move with more than 15 meters away from your ally. This is a stamina morph of this ability, and it's a really good morph because it allows you to connect with somebody else, and you not only can they take advantage of the minor force, so can you. All right, next ability we have is Agony Totem. This one, summon an effigy of bone at your feet that gives minor protection to your allies for 9.5 seconds, reducing damage taken by 8%. After 2 seconds, the totem instills fear in the enemies, holding them in place for 4 seconds. Allies can activate the pure agony, causing enemies to take 7,050 magic damage over 5 seconds, and applying minor vulnerability to them for the duration, increasing their damage taken by 8%. Moving on to the next ability we have is Rally. This one, focus your strength and gain major brutality, increasing your weapon damage by 20% for 33 seconds. You heal for 8,011 health over every 2 seconds, and while active, an additional 1,257 health when Rally expires. The final heal is increased by up to 564% in proportion to the length of time Rally has been active. And just to let you know, Rally, when you activate it, you automatically start healing. And after a little bit, if you start taking damage, if you activate it again, it'll burst heal you. So that's why you want to keep this up as much as you can, is so you have self-healing coming in all the time. Next ability we have is Beckoning Armor. Wrap yourself in hardened bone, granting you major resolve and major ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 20 seconds. While active, enemies that strike you with ranged attacks will be pulled towards you once every 3 seconds. It does create a corpse on when the effect ends. And the last ultimate we have is Aggressive Warhorn. Sound a Warhorn to rally your forces, increasing you and your allies' max magicka and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies gain major force, increasing your critical damage by 15% for 9 seconds. And that is the skills I have set up on this. There are a lot of other skills that I can choose to use, but this is what I like to run with this setup because it just works really well. Alright, now let's go over the CP, starting with the red tree. We have 66 in Ironclad, reducing damage taken from direct damage attacks by 22%. We have 2 in the medium armor focus to kind of balance out our light, or our physical resist with our spell resist. Moving on over here, we have 31 into Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. 56 into Hardy, which reduces your physical poison and disease damage taken by 12%. And then Elemental Defender, which reduces damage taken from Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. And these do stack with Thick Skin and the Ironclad. Moving on, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shield by 16%. We have 19 into Quick Recovery. This increases your healing received by 5%. And then moving on over here, we have 40 into Warlord. This reduces the cost of your break free by 16%. 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 10%. And then moving on, we have 43 into Mooncalf, increases your stamina recovery by 10%. And we have 75 into Tenacity, increasing your magic and stamina of your fully charged heavy attacks by 14%. And then over here we have 40 into Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll cost by 16%, and 40 into Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by 16%. We're going to go over here to this tree. We have 43 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. We have 40 into Elf Born, increasing your critical damage and critical healing of magic abilities by 16%. This is in case you want to use a Magicka heal instead of like Rally or something. Moving on, we have 16 into Physical Weapon Expert. This increases your damage done with light and heavy attacks by with one-handed sword and shield, and your two-handed by 10%. And then we have 40 into Mastered Arms, increasing your damage done with direct damage by 16%. Moving on over here, we have 40 into Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. 40 into Precise Strikes, increasing your critical damage and healing done with stamina abilities by 16%. 8 into Piercing, increasing your physical pen by 811, and then 43 into Mighty, increasing your physical poison disease damage by 10%. And that is our CP for this setup. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this out over here to this target skeleton. I want you guys to see its effectiveness when you're in a group, and a really organized group with synergies and stuff, how effective this thing can be. So what we're going to do is we're not going to use a potion yet. We're just going to apply Crusher and just go through the process. And as you can see, it's pretty self-covering on that. But let's go ahead and take this into a dungeon and see how truly effective it can be. And you guys know which dungeon we're going to go take a hop into. That's right, Depths of Malatar on veteran mode, so you guys can see the effectiveness of this tank mitigating damage in a group. The reason I'm choosing Depths of Malatar is it is one of the more difficult dungeons that's been recently added to the game with Wrathstone DLC, and it can be just a challenge for anyone going in here. Especially DPS, if you try to solo this, you're probably going to die unless you're a really skilled player. And I can only make it up to the, like, second or third boss, I forget. It's been a little bit since I've soloed this, like, really tried to solo it with character. So I'm going to go ahead and get our resistance buff going, just to have it ready. I'll probably cast it again just to be safe. And just so you guys can see the block cost reductions, like, I'm going to buff up here and let you guys see, like, I don't use that much resources when I block, so I can actually take advantage of all this other stuff I have going on, like the self-healing, the damage reduction from this, the Ruinous Scythe for the heal. And if I start to get low on resources, I can heavy attack, because my bone shield will keep me most of the time effectively healed or out of danger, unless I'm fighting a boss encounter that has a lot of damage output. I'm going to go ahead and turn into the Bone Goliath and show you guys the bashing, so you guys can see. Look at this thing. This is like super destructive. And that is that in effect, guys. You guys just saw how well this thing can pull off playing a tank. It's not a super awesome tank, I'm not going to lie, but it can do the job of the tank because it does get so much in resistances. Like, when you are fully buffed up, you end up with 28k and 28 on the sword and shield, and then on the back you get 25, which isn't bad. You lose about 3k, but it's well worth it in the long run when you're looking at your capabilities to tank and such. But that's it for the Soul Reaver as the tank, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. You guys can hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.